Hello everyone and welcome to WayfarersEast, and today we're going to be starting our new format for Heroclix tutorial videos. I know it's been a long time since we've actually gotten back into these, but after making a video yesterday asking people if they would like it, I received almost an immediate response saying yes, make more videos. So you'll notice the green screen, you'll notice the differences throughout the videos. Format's going to change just a little bit. If I need to, I'll take things over to the map and explain them there, but for the time being I'm going to just be me on the camera having figures. I'm going to have stuff in the corner up there for dials and figures and whatnot so that you can actually see what's going on, you can see what I'm talking about, and we're going to make videos like that. So sit tight, and our first video today is going to be about my state team for the 2016 state or South Dakota State Tournament, which is going to take place, I believe, on June 4th, so next week Saturday, or this week Saturday. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give me some feedback, let me know what you think, and without further ado, let's get started. Before we get into the specifics of the team that I'll be playing, we're going to talk a little bit first about the state tournaments and kind of what you need in order to play in them, in order to abide by their rules and regulations. The first and most important rule is that every figure on your team has to be modern age. So for these tournaments, it's everything Guardians of the Galaxy and later. It is important to note that the state tournaments are held in June, and Guardians does get cycled out in July. So anybody who's going down to like Atlanta to play in some of their tournaments or any tournaments later in the year, if you're playing Modern Age, it has to be Guardians or later, and then after July, it's after Guardians, which I believe is Flash, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not 100%. So your team has to be Modern Age. It has to be 300 points, or whatever the points of the tournament is. The specific state tournaments are usually 300 points. And then you have to have a couple other things in order to play in those tournaments. The first thing you're going to need is objects. You need to have 3 objects on your force, at least 1 light, at least 1 heavy or ultra heavy, and then 1 of your choosing. I personally am going to be using 1 light and 2 ultra heavies because of the way my team is set up, and you'll understand that more when I explain it later. The next thing you're going to need is a map. Now, it's important to note that if you bring your own map, which you're supposed to, it counts as 2 maps technically, because you're going to have one side and then another side. Each side is considered its own. Another important thing to note is that it has to, once again, be modern. So anything from Guardians or later is going to be legal for this tournament. I personally am going to be using one side, one map for my one required map because it's indoor and it helps my team, which will make more sense when I explain my team later. And a couple final other things you want to make sure you have. There's going to be action tokens for marking your champions or your characters. You're going to want to make sure you have a line of sight so that you can see people. Make sure you take along a couple pairs of dice so that you can roll, and if they don't like it or something, if they give you their own because that's the rules, then it works too. Just make sure you have every accessory that you need in order to play the game properly. Now that we've gone over everything that you need just to play in the tournament, let's start going over the team that I've built. And I'll try and explain the best that I can why I built the team the way I did and what benefits and drawbacks the team might have. The first figure that's on my team is the Ant-Man number 001 from the Age of Ultron Fast Forces set. I'm going to be picking him up here and looking down a little bit just so that I can look at his dial. I wasn't able to find the dial for this specific figure, but a couple things to note is he does have stealth on his first click. He's got a 10 attack with precision strike. And then the big thing is he's got a 19 defense with super senses on click 1. Ant-Man, of course, is tiny size, so anything in range combat, if he's not in stealth, he's going to automatically have a 20 defense. In a 300-point game, that's going to help him a lot. Finally, the biggest thing to note is he's got 2 damage with outwit on his first click, so that outwit's going to come in huge handy, and it'll make more sense later on, once again, with my other figures. But yeah, this Ant-Man's a really solid figure, and at 75 points, it's really hard not to use him. The next character that I'm going to play with is definitely one of the best support characters that I could possibly have found for the specific team that I'm creating. I'm going to do a little bit of reading here, but he's got a lot of good stuff, and I really think that you guys might enjoy him too. And that is, he's piece 034 from Avengers Assemble, the unique Jarvis. Jarvis has a lot of cool things going on about him. Like I said, he's got 2 traits and a couple specials. His first trait is Jarvis counts as 3 characters for determining how many ID cards can be added to your force. Now this will be really crucial later because I am using the round table on my force. And then on top of that, you don't pay the cost for up to 3 ID cards added to your force. Your opponent scores these cards normally. So ID cards normally cost about 5 points when added to your force. Jarvis makes it so that you can have up to 3 of them for his 1 figure, and you don't pay the point cost for them. So that's awesome. And once again, I'll explain why that's really important later. His second trait is friendly characters can use move through hindering, or improve movement through hindering, and improve targeting through hindering, but only if they occupy indoor terrain. This is the ability why I wanted to choose an indoor map for my team, because Jarvis, when we're indoors, can give us the ability to move through hindering and shoot through hindering. So anybody who's in stealth, doesn't matter. Anybody who's standing on hindering and wants to get that +1 for range combat defense, doesn't matter. Jarvis is going to get rid of it, and that's huge. For a 40-point character, this guy is solid. The last ability I want to talk about is his special defense. He's got this on, let me double check here, clicks 1, 2, and 3. And this is probably, I would say his second, if not his most important ability, because of all the stuff that he offers. This ability makes him stay alive longer, and that's when Jarvis is adjacent to a friendly character with the Avengers keyword, reduce all damage dealt to him to 1. If Jarvis has taken damage from an opposing character since the beginning of your last turn, he ignores all damage dealt by opposing characters. This power cannot be countered. So, because I'm playing with the lower point Ant-Man, who does have the Avengers keyword, if Jarvis is sitting right next to him and somebody comes up and hits him, he's only going to take 1 damage. Now, this isn't going to stop something like Pulse Wave, and he does reduce all damage dealt to him to 1. So if somebody has Exploit Weakness or Penetrating Psychic Blast, it will do a little bit more that way as well. But if somebody's just trying to run up with a good old super strength heavy object and deal 6 or 7 damage to him in 1 attack without any reducers, he's going to reduce it to 1, and that's awesome. A couple other things to note about Jarvis is he does have stealth on his speed ability, which you'll see on the dial that I'll have up on the screen. And then he's got the 1 damage Perplex, and that's huge because if he with the other characters that I'm going to have on my team, the Perplex is going to come in handy with getting defense bonuses, with getting that extra oomph on attack, or if I know I'm going to make the attack roll, then hitting that damage buff. So that's Jarvis. He is absolutely stunning, and I am very excited to have him on my force. Next up, we have another support figure on our piece. We are going to be using a 30-point Ultron drone from the Age of Ultron OP that happened last summer. It is important to note that you can use any drone you want for the purpose that I'm using it for. I'm just choosing to use the drone version of the 300-point Phalanx Ultron, the one that's sitting on the throne, because I think he looks cool. The reason why I'm using this particular drone is because these drones, even though they're 30 points, they're considered to be 120 for in-game purposes. So that would be like if they could use leadership, they're considered to be 120 for leadership. They're also considered to be 120 for calling in ID cards when using the round table or the teleporter, which is why I'm using them the way I am. There's a couple cool things about him, so I'll just read those off of his card here real quick, and then we'll just move on to the next thing, because, like I said, he'll tie in later. Basic programming: when Ultron has no action tokens, his actions don't count against your action total. So normally, like the Avengers team ability, when they move it doesn't count, but when Ultron has no action tokens, it doesn't matter what he does, it doesn't count. So that's really neat. And then he's got a special movement on his second click, which is that he can use phasing teleport, and when he does, he can carry up to 4 characters with the robot keyword. So once again, he's basically being used for calling in ID cards, so there's not really a whole lot else to talk about with him. The last normal figure we have before getting into the round table that we're adding to our team is a figure from the World's Finest set, Mary Marvel. And she is probably the coup de grace of the team. She's the thing that really brings the team together. I was originally going to use a couple different figures, but then I pulled her in a Brick of World's Finest, and I went, okay, that's all she wrote. I have to use this figure. So we're going to read the powers and abilities, then I'll kind of explain that a little bit. First off, her trait is supremely uncorruptible. Opposing characters of equal or lower point value can't target Mary Marvel without wit, perplex, or probability control. That is massive. For a 300-point game, there's not very many figures that are going to be above 150 points if you want a well-rounded team. So the fact that she can't be outwitted, she can't be perplexed down, and she can't be probbed on her attacks, oh man, she's going to steamroll people if she gets the dice rolls well enough. And then next off is her special defense, which is the last click, and that is Shazam. The first time this power is revealed due to damage from an opponent's attack, stop turning the dial. Mary Marvel can use regeneration. When she does, she doesn't decrease the result by 2, and this power cannot be ignored. This is also huge. So say somebody runs up to you, and pulse waves you for 5 damage, and it brings you to the end of the dial, would have normally killed you. Well, nope. Now Mary Marvel's got this stop click, can't be ignored by pulse wave, and then she can use regen on her next turn if she stays alive, and she doesn't subtract 2 from the result. So if you roll a 6, you're going back to click 1. Click 1. That's huge on a 300-point game. All of a sudden, you got a re-killer all over again. Someone who's got 12 hypersonic, 11 super strength, and then 17 invincible with a 4 damage prob on click 1. It's going to be massive. This, once again, is the reason why I'm bringing in the Ultra Heavies as well, because she's got that 11 with super strength. Ultra Heavies add 3 to your damage, so she's going to be swinging with a 7 right off the bat. I played against somebody last week Friday and KO'd his Scarlet Witch in 1 attack with that little combo there, because his whole team was based around probbing, but he had no figures that were above 150 points, so sorry. Another amazing thing about this Mary Marvel is her hypersonic. So she doesn't have to charge, she can run up, hit somebody, and then run away. That again is huge. And that's all I'm going to talk about her right now, because I'm going to get into the round table, and then once we're done with the round table, I'm just going to talk about a quick strategy that I'm going to come up with, and that'll be the end of the video. The final piece that we have on our force for the state tournament is the round table, and now that is a resource dial that you can have ID cards attached to in order to call them in later in the game. And this is kind of a confusing concept for people who don't understand how the round table works. I just recently started using it because I realized how actually effective it is. If you guys would like me to make a more in-depth guide on how to use the round table or the Justice League teleporter, just comment in the video below and I'll make one for you. But essentially what you do is when somebody doesn't have any action tokens at the beginning of your turn, you give them an action, and you can call in an ID character of equal or less points for an entire turn, and that character can be given an action to make an attack. It can't ignore pushing, it can't go more than 5 squares away from the person who called it in. It can't be assigned resources, and if it's assigned or if it's removed from the map for any game effect, then it's automatically gone. But then these characters are really useful because you can call them in, make an attack, absorb some damage maybe on the defensive side, and then they go away. What's nice about the round table is when you do this, you can roll for the round table. You can get ID card bonuses for characters that you're rolling for, and then at the end of the dial, you can do a special ability which allows you to call in characters to your force and then have them for or until they take damage rather than for your next turn. The 4 ID cards that I'm going to be using are the Hulk, Miss Marvel, Hawkeye, and Iron Fist, and I'll have a picture up there in the corner of the video. Now these guys are great because the Hulk gives +1 to attack and lets you use charge. Iron Fist gives +1 to attack or damage. Miss Marvel gives +1 to defense. And Hawkeye is just great for calling in because he's a beast. I'm using the 300-point Hulk from the Age of Ultron movie set, the 94-point Hawkeye from the Age of Ultron movie set, the 100-point Iron Fist from the Avengers Assemble, and then the 66-point Miss Marvel from Avengers Assemble. So essentially what I'm going to do, and this is going to be the part of the video where I talk about my strategy, is I move up to the map, Mary Marvel's going to be picking up the Ultra Heavy, and then what's going to happen is Ultron is going to be given an action because he's considered 120 points. He calls in Hawkeye. Hawkeye's going to come to the board, and he's going to make a ranged combat attack using Precision Strike. This specific Hawkeye, when he's given, when he attacks multiple targets, he gets +1 to attack for every target he's attacking, which is awesome because then he can have a 13 attack for a single attack targeting 3 characters. Using Precision Strike is going to get rid of all super senses, and then it's going to also guarantee that he's going to at least do 1 damage to targets that he decides to give damage to. He's also amazing because if he targets 3 characters, he can choose to give one of those characters an action token instead. And then on top of that, his final thing is that he can give somebody unavoidable, or he can choose not to take an action token. Now, since he's an ID character, they're probably going to choose not to give him an action token, but it's still a nice thing to have. And if somebody doesn't think about it and chooses to take the 1 click of unavoidable, then that's just extra damage for no reason. The Iron Fist is great because he can move up to 4 squares and then make a close combat attack. He's also got Precision Strike, and he's just a solid piece as well for 100 points. He's hard not to use. The Miss Marvel, 66 points, can be called in by both Ant-Man, Ultron, and Mary Marvel, since she's only 66. And she's great because she has charge with super strength if you choose her giant size ability. So basically a 66 run in, deal damage, and then go away. Then finally I have the Hulk. The main reason why I have him is for his ID buff, the +1 to attack, and then the charge. But if I do get to click 25 of the round table, for those of you who know how to use it, then I can bring him out onto the field. Yes, a 300-point killer Hulk with 13 attack and a 19 defense with 6 damage. I can bring him out onto the field, and he's there until he takes damage, not until the next turn. So that's huge as well. I think that I can just kind of blitzkrieg people to death with this team, and that's why I'm kind of playing it. Once again, if any of you have any questions or concerns or want to know how to use some of these figures or the round table, just comment, and if I can just answer in a comment, I will. Otherwise, if you need me to make a video, I can do that as well. Wish me luck in the tournament this week, Saturday, and I hope you all have a great day, and we'll speak with you soon.